big parts of this journey has definitely been about self-discovery. Charlie Regis said that Advocare was about who you become in pursuit of the life that you want. That is one of the things that drove me to that company, is because of the leadership's focus that you worked harder on yourself than anybody else. And I really kind of clung to that, especially in these last 18 months, where I've wanted to kind of learn and grow and really focus on that. So I'm not a big person on labels. I think the future really is in kind of understanding that there are just different types of minds and there are different ways of doing things. But in this kind of whole understanding of myself, I've come across a few things that really intrigue me. And one of those things is this idea that certain people think in systems. And it makes more sense than calling it a disability. And at first I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. But then as I thought about it, I thought, you know what? This makes a lot of sense to me. So there's this great definition of system, and I'm going to read it rather than try to remember it to tell you. A system is a set of related components that work together in a particular environment to perform whatever functions are required to achieve the system's objective. In short, a system is a sort of program that runs to do something. So like we live in a solar system that is our whole design. And there, inside of that solar system are millions of systems running. You know, you think about the ecosystem and the wind currents, and there's all these systems, the way things function. It's not just a program that a human makes. We live in systems. Human beings, in one respect, are a system. Every animal is a system. Every family is a system. There's just kind of this idea that makes a lot of sense to me, that is kind of how I do interact with the world. And when I get into the communication issues, human beings are one of the most complicated systems on the planet. The social atmosphere is a very complicated system with a whole lot of variables that are very difficult if you really break it down. As I looked at that, I thought that's a pretty amazing way to describe this issue. And the thing is that a lot of times we're looking for what's wrong with us that makes us different, right? That's one of the questions we ask. What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Why can't I get involved in this? Why don't I understand this? And that tends to be what gets focused on. When a child has trouble in school, it's what's wrong, what's different. It can be hard to focus on the strengths. The thing is that most of these differences, there are strengths to them. And so I wanted to make a short thing about 5 strengths that I see within this systems thinking mentality. And I'm not trying to categorize everybody, but this is definitely 5 strengths I've seen within myself as I examine this whole idea of thinking of life as systems. So here we go. First thing is interconnectedness. So when you think of life as systems, the thing is that there's an ability to see how things fit together. Okay, so for example, if I see a chair, I know in order to get the chair, I had to have wood, if it's a wooden chair. And in order to get the wood, I had to have a person that would cut down the wood, I had to have air, I had to have light, I had to have soil, I had to have the seed to grow the tree. So I understand how things all fit together and how they work together. And that makes me good in a lot of arenas. I used to sit and do puzzles. That was one of the things that I loved to do with my spare time, was I would do 1,000, 2,000 piece puzzles because I had that ability to see how things fit together. Number 2 is seeing outcomes. So seeing how the chain of events all will play out. And this can be a very hard line sometimes because it's not always a good outcome. But there's this benefit to being able to see things that other people might not be able to see. For example, when you look at a caterpillar, there is nothing within the caterpillar that you can see that tells you it's going to become a butterfly unless you've already seen that caterpillars become butterflies. Okay? The systems thinker is able to see those outcomes based on all the information that they've collected, all those previous things, all that data that they have gathered. They're able to see outcomes in a situation. They can see the caterpillar become the butterfly. They can see the acorn become the oak tree. They see how it all plays out. Not perfectly, of course. That makes a great visionary, to be able to instantly see how the chain of events could work out or will work out, and how the domino pieces are going to fall. Number 3 is an honest assessment. And I'm going to be honest, this doesn't always feel like a good thing. We don't live in a world that always values the truth. My husband and I, early on, I set the parameters that when I ask a question, I want an honest answer. I do not want to be told nice things. It drives me crazy. So if I say, how does this dress look on me? I don't want people to tell me I look good in it if I don't. I want honesty because I value that. And when I'm giving that to you, that's a value to me. That's something I think is beneficial, because that's the system mentality of just telling how it is. Now, that doesn't mean it's always the truth. It's an honest assessment based on how I see it, what I think things are. I don't necessarily have all the information or see it from other perspectives. It's just from my perspective. But the thing is that when you ask me a question, you're going to get an honest answer. When I answer a question, I want to answer in a very honest, sincere way, because I see that as valuable information. Because again, we're working in a system and the chain of events matter. The whole idea of telling you something just because you might want to hear that doesn't process a lot here, because it seems like you would want to know the truth, or at least the truth as I see it, at least my genuine opinion. And that's where a social problem really exists for me, because when people start telling me BS, it's a problem for me. I don't want people telling me that they like me if they don't, or doing nice things or being nice to me, and it messes me up, okay? Because that's the thing, is that whole idea that you would not just give an honest assessment of the situation. Again, it doesn't always feel valuable, but it really is, because when you deal with that sort of system thinking mentality, you can trust that you're going to hear the truth, at least the truth as that person sees it. Number 4 is being very accepting. So if everything is a system, there's no reason to judge one system against another system, or one thing comparing it to another thing. It's all individual, and it all functions how it functions. It is what it is. So when I meet you, you are who you are. And I don't have a reason to decide what's broken and what's not broken. I'm more deciding what you are. In fact, that's kind of one of the things that made me realize how true this was, is because when I meet people, or when I start something, I know that there's 1,000 different ways that it can be done. I just want to know how you want it done. I want to know what you want from me, because I know there's a million things that I can do. Who do you need me to be? What do you like to do? What things are you into? I want to understand your system. So it's very easy for me to just be very accepting of varieties of differences, because you're just you. You are the system that you are. You run how you run. And I'm not here to change that. I'm here to understand that. So it just creates this nice sort of ability to just accept the world as it is. My 5th value in this is understanding the system. So one of the things that kind of came to me out of this is this ability to kind of just see and understand, to look into a situation and understand how it all comes together, and understand the differences and understand the way things run. And the best part about this is, initially, when it comes to people, I might have a very difficult time figuring things out because it's so complex and it's so about learning and getting to know and figuring things out and understanding that system. The thing is that after a while, the more chances I have, I'm going to know the system. I'm going to understand how it works and how it pieces together. And that actually makes me a very valuable friend to have, and a very valuable employee, and a very just valuable in many ways, because once I know the system, I can run the system. I can function this. I know the system. So I understand the rules of the game and how it all functions together, and I can contain all that information. And it lends itself to compassion and caring about things and really being able to just, it's that acceptance things too, but to know it, to understand. There's a level of understanding that sometimes actually doesn't feel like a good thing, especially if you're a person that tries to like cover up who you are and not be honest. You come into a person like me and with our honest assessments and all that stuff, and tend to get past all that, which isn't always appreciated, but at the same time is an asset to be able to look into a system and to be able to look out and kind of understand how it works. Which is funny because I think a lot of times it comes across early on like there's not an understanding, like everything is, this is weird, it's confusing. But gosh, I'm struggling for the words here. There's been so many instances where I understand something that I don't quite know that I understand, and it's caused a whole lot of problems, and then later on I'm like, oh, I knew that's what that was, but I was too busy not trusting myself and not, okay, so I understood how everything pieced together, but I kind of told myself that wasn't true and it wasn't real, and other people were like, what are you talking about? That's not true at all. It was true. It was just true, and I understood that. I just didn't trust myself. And so now, as I'm kind of learning these things, I'm learning that I can trust that understanding, because I do see the system and I do get it and I understand how it all works together. I think it's very important as we learn about ourselves that we learn how we function and get to know us. That's part of that self-care, because we are all very different and we all have lived very different lives. And so learning what works for us and our assets, instead of just asking all the time, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Understanding why we are the way we are and how those things are actually assets to us. Because I think a lot of times we are viewing things as a hindrance that in the right light is actually very much a gift. It's just being used wrong, and it's just causing us a lot of trouble. Honest to goodness, as I've learned about this, my anxiety levels have dropped tremendously. And the funny thing about this is that it's one of those things you can't unsee. Now that I've realized it about me, I actually see it in some people around me, and I think it's like one of those things that they are going to have to become aware of it themselves too, because I'm not going to be able to just walk up and be like, by the way, because nobody could have told me that before until I understood that. So that's part of that journey of self-discovery, is really getting to know who you are and how you think and what works for you and what helps you tick and what makes you go. And I love this idea that of labeling this more as a system thinking issue, because it makes so much sense to me. But it's not about just what's wrong, you know, it's not about just why I can't be like other people. It's about, I have these certain gifts and they are good for certain things. And if I can put those good gifts to use in the way that they're intended, I will be happier and the people around me will be happier. And that anxiety about not fitting in and being different just drops because I realize, oh, I'm different. It's not always fun. I don't always like that, but it's true. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you because I think that it's important to kind of document where I'm at, but also because, again, these videos are often to me about helping other people, and I know there's other people that identify with some of the issues I've had, and maybe if you start to look at this stuff and you start to realize, hey, that's kind of me too, I'd love for people to be able to realize this stuff sooner than I did, and not struggle with it like I did, because, oh, it's exhausting. Anyway, have a great week. Just share love with people. Be kind, always, because, gosh, you just never know what's going on with people. You just never know. I know I've said it before, but you guys, so much. Be kind. Good night.